of the quality of students, or it has to do with the quality of instruction. What have the institutions been doing? And to think that a lot of these people are graduates from Ghana's foremost education institutions, the University of Cape Coast, University of Education Winneba, and the colleges of education. That makes it even more concerning. They could not pass simple aptitude tests. What really must be the issue? Surely there's something amiss, and we hope to deal with that today. But in the meantime, a policeman has been killed in a daylight robbery attack on a Bullion van at Ablekuma Farm Milk in Accra. Videos of the incident show members of the public rescuing the fatally shot policeman from a pickup truck. Reports indicate that a truck with registration number GT 125410 was attacked shortly after stopping at a fuel station. It is currently unclear why the vehicle stopped at the fuel station, but the information is that they went there on cash collection rounds. The driver of the truck, however, escaped unhurt during the attack. Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service says it's on a manhunt for the gang of robbers who attacked the Bullion van and killed its officer. The following report has more.
According to eyewitnesses, the shooting incident took place between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. as normal business activity was ongoing along the Ablekuma Farm Milk Junction and Ablekuma Curve stretch. The Bullion van, with registration number GT 1254-10, was shortly attacked after it had been trailed into the fuel station by the 4 armed robbers who were on motorbikes. They immediately began firing warning shots while they moved towards the Bullion van and shot the police officer. The armed robbers made away with an unspecified amount of money, according to eyewitness. An eyewitness who runs a business in the area has been speaking to City News.
We have 1 to 2 more, 130 to 2 more. I'm just saying, okay, so now I see me tiase. Nti de mi hu on say pe. Nti ya o saso hani na ye pagya yemu. Ah, na ehu say am Robert na ba ho. Nti no na ehu de ye. Nti preko pa na ehu say ba ko efiti inside ro abegina anim ha. No on share mass. Omo nhye hwe. Nti de mi tun say otututu no tene no twene ni. Otoko anu otoko wi no otoko left right ah. Nti oto ya ma bullet nya ye den esan ye. E no san yi fufuro no kotoku no clock ye. E no san toto ya nti de mi hu say we were inside the home. Na bako akita se sako se bago na omode fa na nkwatana moto so ntama yenya ye rush no na omodu ye wo baby abro no say ofi Ablekuma Junction kwa baby afon Galilee no modu Galilee ho na omode call ye oh enube seconds operation no enube seconds no modu operation no.
Another eyewitness who had also gone to the fuel station where the shooting incident happened to purchase fuel says he narrowly escaped death as the armed robbers shot through the windscreen.
Mi tato fuel wa hano. Uma mi tambe to fuel wa. Nti mi hu say mi fuel na abadan. Nti mi du hano no na me there mi rem na private car fufu to so rem. Ono mi nya na rem ba mi na me first terminal. Na ono di second terminal. Nti guy ni serve mi wie no. O serve mi wie na ya kan sen me this kanimano nti o ma me change no all of a sudden me find say nya 2 minutes and white car no bank car no Bullion van be remu nya 1 minute and I say motor su den aba be remu a omomo a won shoot in fact me kra nya adwane the say na 22 kono masa me try me ni tre this side nti na yes na me den me bull seat na me den me dey mu the story ni nyina no me car me windscreen no e fa e kan body ni me kan screen no.
Meanwhile, some residents in the area have been left traumatized by the incident and are calling for the perpetrators to be brought to book.
Very traumatized because he saw my face, he pointed the gun at me, he shot. And then the next attempt, he realized that he didn't have bullets. So I saw him failing it, but I had to run. And then he started shooting randomly. So my main concern is he has seen my face. So if he's not caught, he can actually come around and then do something, or maybe his accomplices can actually do something.
All right, so you're welcome back. We saw that report put together by City News detailing how the unfortunate incident unfolded, at least from the account of eyewitnesses. Very, very unfortunate incident that we lost a young and vibrant officer in a manner that is not entirely new to us. The question is, how long are we going to be going through this? To 2021, we went through it. The same comments were made. Nothing major has happened. Incidentally, there's a major deadline for 1st July. We pray and hope that when that 1st July deadline happens, the Bullion vans we see on our road will be phased out and the new armored ones brought in to help improve the security of the cash and the persons who drive the cash around. And the banks must also learn to invest in the security of persons who work with their money. We understand that it is quite expensive to procure these armored vehicles, but it is important. I mean, nothing is more costly than the life of people, especially when it's a young and vibrant person. We really need to do more as a people and as a nation to ensure that our human resources are adequately protected. To help me do the discussion this morning will be Colonel Festus Abuaji, who's a security analyst, Dr. Richmond Etuahini, he's a banking consultant, and Dr. Clement Park, Member of Parliament, Bosa South. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program. I must say that we spoke to the wife of the police officer in question in the course of the show. We will play excerpts of how she got to hear about the death of her husband and what is left for her to do now. Indeed, a young man in question, we understand, was going to write or was taking his last paper to become a chartered accountant on July 3. And a very good student, we understand. He scored the best, or he was adjudged the best student in one of the papers earlier. And so the wife, Amanda Amoa, has been speaking exclusively to City News. Let's hear a few minutes of what she's been saying.
So the house behind me is the official residence of 28-year-old police officer Callistus Amoa, who was shot dead by robbers last night. Now, as I speak to you, family, friends have come all the way to come and commiserate with the family of the late police officer. Now, I'll just go in there and understand that this is a compound house where there are neighbors of the late police officer have come in here to show their love to the close family of the late Callistus Amoa. If I take you back to what happened yesterday at about 3 p.m., we had that shocking news that a Bullion van was attacked by unknown persons, and a police officer was shot dead, and the driver of the Bullion van escaped, and also some of the attendants at the filling station, Star Oil filling station at Ablekuma Fan Milk, where the incident occurred, also fled the scene. As we speak, the police, from their statement on Thursday evening, indicates that they are still on a manhunt for the unknown persons who perpetuated this heinous crime. And so as we speak, this is what is happening. Friends and family very shocked with what has occurred. So a delegation drawn from the headquarters of the Ghana Police Service and also the National Protection Unit, where Callistus Amwa was a part of, have been here at the family house of the late police officer to commiserate with the family as well. It is led by Superintendent Suleimana Sule, and would just take a listen to the interaction between the family and the police delegation.
Commissioners need nani eba handra. And ne bibia abofra no ye adwuma no. Ye wa hu ya se no. Ye no no ene ye adwuma. E wo bibia wo no. And na nye omu nani nya kwan bai. Nti anapai ne adwuma e fo so no. Ya ba. Bibi se eto ya ye ne abusiafo no ena etenase edwin bom eye nhyeche kosi se ye bepe ye nuano ne korabre na ne beka committee na be ye bia no so no eno de be fi mpanyifo ena ba we de ye bechia am ye ba yesa ena msa hoho ba ekoi ye de nsu kakra ena de bremu aye ne edwumaifo na mase
nora mobile na yate so say ne mo se mo beba nti busuafo ni bi ba na mo ko saa do fo ba na mo ko saa nti moni ma na ye hwe na mo de aba betu ha de se ne mo jaaye enra no saa na te boni bi en si ha bi e beta mo chi e da mo se.
So we'll get to speak to some close associates of the late Callistus Amwa to just paint a picture of the caliber of person that he is, and also tell us more about his social life and how they heard of this news.
I woke up to hear the voice of a wife, and I wanted to come out. I didn't know what was going on, even though that news has not yet been broken to the wife, so she was just sounding normal. But the wife drew close to me and was like, Richie, have you heard from Mr. Amwa? And I was like, oh, I came to meet him in the morning. Then she was like, this is the news I had. I just told her, madam, just calm down. Don't conclude yet. Because I met him, I spoke with him. So this news is not the news I'm ready to listen. So just calm yourself down, go inside. You have a 1-year-old boy. I took the boy and I sent the boy inside my room just for me to on my TV to see that they are showing a video of him. As I saw the body, I didn't want the wife to know. But I just have to be quiet indoors then. It's very sad. He's the only brother I have in Accra here. To be honest, if you come to see us pounding food, doing everything together, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Everybody knew him to be a very kind person. In fact, if there is another name for him, I would say Amwa is respectful, calm. In fact, he lowered himself no matter his standard. The family we are living around, in fact, it's a heartbreaking news. We are looking forward that the Central Police commanders, all the service personnel, including the army, all the service personnel, they should team up. This incident hasn't been the first incident. It's about 3 times or so. What are they doing about this? Should it keep on happening while they are not taking any action? We want justice.
There's still a solemn atmosphere here at the residence of the late police officer. Now, information that City News has gathered is that the late Callistus Amwa was married for just 2 years and has a 1-year-old baby with Amanda Amwa. We would speak to her to find out how she heard of the news of her late husband and what her fond memories are.
A colleague from his workplace called me that, oh, how are you? I said, I'm fine. How is my brother? And I said, oh, he's fine. Are you home? And I said, no, please. And he said, and I said, so where is Kalis? And I said, oh, Kalistus, he might be home because by 2 they've closed. So I'm not home, but I think he's home. But my phone is spoiled. And he said, oh, where the gafra why shedding what? So I thought the phone, that was what he said. So immediately my heart started beating. I tried calling. I called like 10 times. He wasn't picking. So as my mother was speaking to me, my mind wasn't there. I was just praying. Then my mother said, my mom just had a call. And when we saw the number, I asked my mom, what's number? And she said, unknown number. And I said, then this one is from the police administration. So they said, I want to talk to their wife. And I just said, please, I'm here. He said, can you give me your number? I want to come to your place. And I said, okay. Then I gave them the number. So I called a friend back and said, oh, please, what is it? What is wrong? Please tell me, my heart. And he said, everything is under control. So I thought maybe robbery, and then maybe they stolen the money, so he has been taken into maybe under investigations or something, because my mind didn't go to death. His Christianity, he doesn't joke. That is 100%. Every morning he goes to work, he kneels down. His rosary is still in his pockets. He kneels down with the gun, pray with the gun, and goes to work. He was pursuing chartered accountant course, and he's left with just one paper to write on July 3rd. He had best students in one of their courses that they awarded them in December. And he went for his award and told me, don't worry, it's just left with one paper. I'm coming to blow that paper. And now you call me chartered accountant. I never thought Callistus. I don't know why good people don't last. He was a good man. This area, when they just said, everybody was like, Brawe, no, this policeman, I think the Bullion fans, I don't know what to say. The protective cloth, they should try and give it to them so that it will protect them. And always it tells me it doesn't understand why policeman there is only one who follow. But if it's military, there are plenty and they'll follow. So why is it like that? I don't know why good people don't last.
Well, more people continue to troop in here to the family house of the late police officer to mourn with the family. For the wife, friends, and family of the late Callistus Amoah, they want justice to prevail. They want the perpetrators.
All right, so you saw that report and heard that report on what happened yesterday when some family or friends of the gentleman visited their home to commiserate with the family, and you heard the wife as well speak fondly about the ex-husband or the slain husband. Colonel Festus Abuaji is a security analyst, Dr. Richmond Etuahin is a banking consultant, Dr. Clement Apark is MP Busa South. These are my guests for the first part of the program. I started with you, Colonel. This has happened before. We've had a conversation about this before, but the nature of this one, of course, the other one at Jamestown at Edempo also had its own peculiarities. But when you saw the video and you heard of this incident, what did you think, or what immediately jumped out at you? Hello, Colonel Abuaji.
Good morning once again.
Good morning, sir. I hope you are well. Yes, I can hear you now, yes.
By God's grace, let me say hello to Dr. Etuahin and the Honorable Dr. Clement Apark. I'm very delighted to be on the panel with them. But more importantly, please let me express sincere condolences to the wife and the wider bereaved family, as well as the police service. Indeed, personally, I feel very, very bad about the manner in which this young police officer was killed. More so because my understanding of the video clip, and this is the benefit that we have, probably unlike the other scenarios of heist and bullion van attacks and so on. Here we have the benefit of the video to critically analyze. And my sense is that this gentleman lost his life as a result of two fundamental factors and maybe other broad factors. One, policy failure, and two, professional operational lapses. And all of that in the milieu of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which we are finding a bit difficult to bring under control in this country. Policy failure because I think we're all aware that when heist came to a head in about 2021, we had police pronouncements on the part of the Bank of Ghana directing that all banking institutions and so on should procure fit for purpose bullion vans. And I think you said that the deadline is 1st of July, which is just a few days away. So I don't think that because 1st July has not yet lapsed, we can excuse the sector by saying that yes, they are still in the process of acquiring these bullion vans. In fact, yesterday I heard somebody from the Association of Bankers saying that they had procured 60% of the required bullion vans without telling us the quantity of bullion vans that they need. That is a policy failure, one side or one dimension of that. But again, I think around that time, 2021, 2022, probably in conjunction with other security issues, the Ministry of Interior assured Ghanaians and the police service that they were going to be equipped with bulletproof jackets and ballistic helmets and so on and so forth. From what we saw in this video, this young police officer had none of these equipment. If he had them, probably he might have been fatally injured, but not to have died instantly, under the circumstances. So these were the two main aspects of the policy failures. That yes, we established the policy, and it does appear that once again, policing that regulation has been lax. On the operational side, we need to make reference to a directive that the IGP issued in October 2021. I'm not too sure who the IGP was then, but probably Mr. Opon Bueno. The directive was specific that all bullion van escorts must be composed of 2 vehicles, minimum, 2. Secondly, there should be not less than 2 police officers acting as armed escorts. Now, in this instance, to put it simply, there was only one police officer, and there was only one so-called armored bullion van.
Bullion van, yeah.
So these were the lapses on the part of the police service. Look, before you go on operations, I don't know the specifics of the police service, but there is always a patrol master or there is a director of operations at whatever level who dispatches patrols, in this case, the armed escorts, briefs them, gives them instructions, and ensures that they are properly equipped and prepared for the task. So there has been a failure at that level, call it tactical level, within the police service, of not ensuring that this gentleman, and I'm assuming that this was an official operation, that he didn't just go and buy that operation for himself. Lastly, for the purposes of just learning, the way and manner in which, in fact, all the things that I've said regarding the police are matters of standard operating procedures, not protocols. Standard operating procedures or SOPs. But on the part of the armed escort, we have to talk about drills. When any convoy stops, it is most vulnerable. So if you've seen how escorts or protection teams protect VIPs, as soon as vehicles stop, even before the vehicles have stopped, you see them jumping out and taking positions. When this vehicle entered the premises of the filling station and it backed up a bit in order to reposition the vehicle where it wanted, the driver wanted it to be, the police officer was still seated in the vehicle, which is contrary to what the drill should have been. Secondly, when the vehicle stopped, the doors should have been locked until the police officer got out, took a position to protect the vehicle before, all the other doors were opened. The way and manner in which the driver even behaved, that instead of taking evasive action, maybe speeding off, the driver jumped up at the least opportunity and escaped for dear life. So these were some of the reasons why I think this young man has lost his life. As of yesterday, I didn't know why the vehicle had gone to that filling station, but we were told by Star Petrol or Star
Oil,
that Star Oil, that it was on cash collection assignment. So Star Oil, although not a banking institution, has also failed. It should have known that as long as it was going to use that vehicle to collect cash with a police escort, there should have been two of those vehicles. Indeed, how much was it going to cost Star Oil if it had procured two vehicles and paid for two police escorts? Would that have been better than losing this promising life this early on?
Should it be Star Oil or it should be the bank? Because Star Oil may not have to necessarily pay for the, I don't know how it works, but shouldn't it be the duty of the banks to send the appropriate bullion van in number, in type, and maybe ensure that the escort was well positioned in terms of protection? Should it be the Star Oil or it should be the bank?
From the statement that I've heard or I've read online from Star Oil, the banks don't go to clients to collect payments from them or deposits. The normal practice, and I think Dr. Chichahine can explain this better than myself, but my understanding is that all businesses take their monies to banking facilities in order to make the deposits. So on that assumption, Star Oil was collecting all its sales in order to take the sales to its bankers. But be that as it may, see, common sense is common sense. If you know that you're going to move large amounts of cash as a business entity, why don't you benefit from the policy established by the Bank of Ghana and, use the facilities that are available? And on this note, I've argued elsewhere that I don't think the policy as is, I haven't read it, but I don't think it is necessary for all banking institutions to own armored vehicles. The regulation or the policy should have been that all cash in transit must be moved on armored vehicles or bullion vans, so that there will be room for other business entities to set themselves up as operators of bullion vans, who can then rent or lease the bullion vans to those who need that kind of service. Now, to say that Star Oil and GOIL and all these other, individually owned, some by MPs, I'm told, that every one of them must own bullion vans. I don't think that is a well thought out policy. But it doesn't excuse, anybody from moving cash around, even as individuals, from not making sure that the cash and ourselves and our vehicles that we are moving around, are secure. Indeed, there are a few more things that we can talk about, but I think these are my preliminary comments. Basically, there have been lapses, and it is the lapses that has occasioned the loss of this life, and we need to learn the right lessons.
Very well, but I do think that there is an association of bullion vans. We spoke to them yesterday, I think. So there is such an association, so that not all the banks own bullion vans. There are individual business people in that space, and indeed, I think it was the gentleman who said that they had procured a number of them, awaiting the 1st July deadline. I'm just trying to put that out there. But talk to me, about the manner in which the criminals carried out their attack. It appeared these were people who really knew their way around guns and they knew exactly what their target should be or their target was. Kind of looked like a professional job.
I have the same opinion. The video that we have with the critical part of the heist lasted about 1 minute and 14 seconds. Within that time frame, 1 minute, 14 seconds or thereabout, they had arrived at the scene, opened the door where the police officer was seated, shot barrages or salvos in order to eliminate or neutralize him, made their way to the other side, collected the bags, jumped on their motorbikes, and then left. 1 minute, 14 seconds. You look at their movements, how they assigned different roles for the 4-member team to operate. The one who was on the lookout, by the road, and those 2 who were on the bikes, or 3 who were on the bikes, and so on. They were very well organized. It is very tempting to then conclude that they have had some form of security training, or that they themselves prepared very well. Indeed, it will also not be out of the question to say that they may very well be, let's say, police officers. But way back in 2016, in the Afram Plains, I don't know whether that was the first armed attack on a bullion van or not, but 2 police officers were involved in the attack on the bullion van in Afram Plains, 2016. Then we had the industrial area one, February 2022, which also involved police officers. And then we had the Jamestown one, if I'm not mistaken, June 2021, which also involved police officers. So it is not, out of the question to assume that these were security personnel. Fortunately, we have the footage on video. Fortunately, they were not wearing masks, which is also another weakness or a mistake that they might have made. And I believe that the police can enhance the video in order to capture the faces of those individuals and share that with the population to see whether members of the population can help identify them. But these 4 men were very, very well prepared. Even if they were not security personnel, they were very, very well prepared. And they seized the moment when the escort was most vulnerable. That was the time when it had stopped. Indeed, you could also argue that even if they had been in bullion vans, assuming, and they had not taken the necessary tactical drills, that is the escorts, they could still have been killed. And that is a point that pains me, that this police officer, yes, is in uniform, but was he properly trained for escort duties, armed escort duties? Or we just say that, okay, he's a police officer, he's going to police depot or wherever, train himself for 6 months or so, and therefore he's capable of, conducting these kinds of operations. I've argued somewhere that the first time I had to open an armored vehicle, I will not, tell Ghanaians which armored vehicle that it was. It was a Mercedes, armored. And I thought that it was a normal vehicle. I was shocked that it wouldn't move. So I had to now muzzle up and pull it with a lot of force. A few years ago, I was in South Sudan and I was driving in a UN armored vehicle. These are very heavy pieces of equipment. The doors, the glasses, and so on and so forth. You look at how easy it was for the guy in the white shirt to have just opened the door and opened the salvo on the police officer. The whole approach tactically was wrong. That the doors were, as the vehicle was even driving around, the doors were open, they were not locked down. The police officer should be the first to get out, take position before the driver gets out. And even if he was killed, why didn't the driver take evasive action? Why did he run away? So the driver or drivers of bullion vans themselves must also be properly trained. It is not just putting any driver in a bullion van and collecting any police officers without requisite tactical training and deploying them on such operations. Then we'll end up with the kinds of casualties or casualty that we've just suffered. And that is the part that pains me a lot. To see this man in a can, we say, Odaya, slumbering in the seat like that. Very, very pathetic. I don't think it should happen again.
The wife mentioned in part of the interview we played about how the late officer would interrogate persons who would call him to escort the vehicles, of course, officially, whether they were armored vehicles or whether they had this or they had that. And I also know about the directive or the policy directive to provide certain protective apparel, bulletproofs, etc. And in this business of security, you know it, there's what we call mutiny. Could a police officer or could officers have told their superiors that because you've not provided me with ABC, I'm unable to undertake this task or go on this assignment? Would that have been possible, or that will amount to mutiny?
Well, it comes to two factors. One, the level or the quality of the training of the officer. I mean, his or her awareness of the regulations. Because one cardinal principle, at least for the military, is that it is not unlawful to disobey an illegal or unlawful order. So if me, Festus, and I don't want to speak for myself, if you ask me to do anything that I think is wrong, it's not appropriate, it's not consistent with practice, with law, people know me that I'll tell you that I'm sorry, I cannot do it. So this officer, belated, could have told his superior, whoever was dispatching him on this assignment, that look, I've gone there, there's only one vehicle. I request or I insist, as some might say, that there should be two vehicles. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I cannot go on that assignment. You know that in our cultural setting, there would have been consequences. Somebody would have penalized him for doing the right thing and not taking responsibility for ordering him to do something that was illegal. So that is one of the issues that we are grappling with in this country. That especially when you talk truth to power, you are penalized. And we see it all around us, the Dumelovos and so on and so forth, who are giving their sack because they are doing the right thing. Now this young man, probably a constable, one child, 2 years, married, has got his future. Would he have been prepared enough to dare the authority to say that I'm not going on this operation? So we cannot fault him, assuming that he didn't say that. We cannot fault him. It is rather the responsibility of persons in authority in power to ensure that the right things are done. And I refer to standard operating procedures. At least if the police didn't have it, as of October 2022, the IGP 2021, the IGP issued a directive. So that directive becomes SOPs, the minimum standards that must be met for armed escorts on the part of police officers. Indeed, the IGP in that directive said that the police were not going to undertake such escorts unless these other parameters were fulfilled. And that is why I think the police must accept responsibility. Police as an institution. And then the person who directed, who instructed this late constable or whoever to have gone on that operation without ensuring due diligence or doing due diligence, I think part of the blame must be taken by this other person, whoever that person is. But you don't just get up from your home and say that you are going on assignment. You are always tasked or assigned to go and perform a task or a duty. So there must be persons who must be held to account. But then generally the police service must also take responsibility for what has happened.
Very well. I'll come back to you. Let me speak to Dr. Richmond Etuahene, who is a banking consultant, knows so much about this space. Doc, welcome to the program. Can you help us appreciate how this bullion van, cash collection, etc. thing works, and what the procedures from the side of the bank is or are in engaging the security agencies, the police, maybe in getting escorts, etc. Can you put all of that together for us? Hello, Doc.
Hello.
Yes, Doc.
I mean, let me first join Colonel to express our deepest condolences to the wife and the family. And as Colonel has said, I think he summed it up completely. The failures are too many. The failures are too many. I mean, especially on the part of the Bank of Ghana and the Ghana Bankers Association. We all know the contract is that we have some cash collection business, which we have done it over and over and over the years. And the contract is that the bank should provide a secure means of moving the money from the customer to the vault, which is the duty of the bank. And let me share some experience like Colonel has done. In the 80s, 87, when SSB was commissioned to do cocoa business, moving cash all over to Sekirioso, Akontomra, Diaboso, Boakon, we had to secure bullion vans, strong bullion vans that cannot easily be moved or touched like they touched the thing. So you begin to ask yourself, what have we abandoned something we used to do in the 80s? Come with a car that is purported to be a bullion van, but not a bullion van, to risk the life of police and others. The procedure is very simple. You want to move cash as a bank. You either outsource it to a third party. I don't want to mention those we have outsourced some cash to them. But even that, you must provide a secured bullion van, bulletproof, so that cash could be moved easily without losing lives. And like Colonel said, as far as 2021, when I commented on this, that the then IGP said that they should acquire it, happened in June, and he said by July. But fortunately, he moved it to, I think, 2022. October. So the question is that why have we sat down for all these while, including Bank of Ghana, to ensure that this equipment has been provided? Because the system failure or like policy failure, Somebody comes on the radio, say we have acquired 60%. 60% of what? And people get away with all these excuses and languages and English without we punishing people who are supposed to have enforced it. When the IGP said, he told the banks that if you don't provide this armor secure vehicle, we are not going to move the money. We all heard him. So why has it taken us just as close as July? Somebody is telling us July. What is the difference between 2021 and 2023? Just a month ago. I believe, like Colonel has just said, responsibility has been checked. Those who have been told to do things to ensure that these things have failed, including Bank of Ghana, the Ghana Bankers Association, and the individual banks. The individual banks, because they haven't done justice to what they were told to do. And in all, they all looked on unconcerned, like Kenan has said, and let a good soul, a person created in the image of God, to be shot like a pig. I saw it, and I've not stopped bleeding. I've stopped being weeping, because here is a young man, potential to be a person who will contribute to the nation, to lose his life as such. So for the procedure, the SOPs, the standard procedure, cash will be moved in a secured bullion van. And one time, I was the vice chairman of COGLA, the Committee for Bankers and Police Security. We used to meet regularly, and we used to discuss this in the 90s and 2000s. And one of the issues that we managed to meet the IGP, then IGP, is to tell them that this cash business you're doing is risky. So you should ensure that your people have the necessary equipment and accoutrement so that they don't die. And the banks must make sure, even if it is possible, the banks must go a step further, because at the end of, until recent, they were declaring huge profits. The bank could set some of their profit to even support the police to bring this equipment, in addition to the secure bullion funds. We don't leave everything to the police, because the police have a limited budget, and the cash collection or cash movement is not just they are not sole business. So I would have thought that the banks should go a step further to support the police in securing some of even the equipment, in addition to the secure bullion fund, to make the work of the police and the banks cash movement more secured.
Very well.
Unfortunately, like Kenan has said, anytime we lose a life, we all come and talk as if today, if this thing is not even enforced, we're going to hear the same English, the same semantics in the next 3 months.
Very well.
So my take is that the people must make sure that these things are properly established and set up, and the SOP standard procedures are followed religiously.
Very well.
Other than that,
yes,
we'll be experiencing these things or one of them.
Yes, I need to take a short break. I'll come back to you, Dr. Twahine. This is The Big Issue, 97.3 City FM. My name is Selom Adun. We are discussing the recent robbery attack on the Bullion van at the Star Oil filling station at Ablekuma that left one officer dead. We'll take a short break, return, and we'll continue with the conversation. Yeah, welcome back to The Big Issue. A very big welcome to our TV viewers as well. We are looking at two major issues today. The matter of the Bullion van robbery, and we're asking whether we need a review of security measures when it comes to the movement of cash from one point to the other. Indeed, there was a directive that Bullion vans must be armored, or we need to procure armored Bullion vans. That deadline, the deadline for that, for implementing that directive, I think was shifted a bit. Now that deadline stands at 1st July, just a couple of days away from this unfortunate incident. A number of points have been raised by my guest, Dr. Tuahini, and then Colonel Festus Amboaji. But we'll continue with that. Also, we'll look at the matter of the licential exams. Over 80% of teachers fail their exams. We ask whether it is a problem with the students or the teachers, or it's a problem with the instructions, the teaching institutions who haven't prepared them well enough. Mind you, these are graduates from University of Cape Coast, University of Education, Winneba, the foremost institutions for training teachers in our country, and the colleges of education. What could have gone so wrong? If they passed UCC exams and passed UEW exams, why couldn't they pass a licensure exam? And we've seen some of the questions. We'll look at all of that and see how to unpack this later on in the show. In the meantime, my guests are Colonel Festus Amboaji, security analyst, Dr. Richmond Tuahini, banking consultant, Dr. Clement Apak, who is member of parliament for Busa South. Dr. Park, very unfortunate incident that has happened. It appears that every now and then when things happen, we say a lot of nice words, make recommendations, hopeful to implement them, but everything comes down and then we forget. Case in point, in 2021, the James Standard matter happened. We said a number of things. Bullion vans must be accompanied by a number of security armed persons. We see that around, but that doesn't appear to be a universal thing we do, etc. I mean, you are a lawmaker. I don't know how these things come to you. I know that you would say that there are efforts in place to achieve it, but how many times are we going to be experiencing this before we see a solution properly so-called?
Well, Salom, let me say good morning to you and my co-panelists, and of course say good morning to the people of Busa South and all of Bullock. You know that one of the stations that carries your program is Radio Busa.
Radio Busa, yes.
In Sandema.
That's so.
And I must commend the founder,
okay.
Mr. Richard Alandu. Okay. I know he monitors what you do. I am still in a state of shock and disappointment. As a citizen, as a parent, and as somebody who has young nieces and nephews, in fact, some of them young police officers. This young man who has lost his life, I would say needlessly, in the service of duty, as a result of the failure of a system and a structure that ought to have put in place the needed accoutrements, so to speak, and the needed laws, and giving effect to pronouncements to protect him. It is sad. It is sad, to say the least. But you see, I want to focus a lot more on the failures of the Ghana Police Service itself, as well as the Ministries of Interior, and I will probably even add the Ministry of Defense. My colleague, Member of Parliament, the leader of our caucus in the Upper East region, who also happens to be the ranking member on Parliament's Committee on Defense and Interior, James Agalga, has called for the Ministers for Interior and Defense to be summoned to Parliament to answer to questions pertaining to this occurrence and why previous promises and protocols were not implemented. Baseline is that, given that previous experience that you spoke about in 2021, and what was said and what we all expected to have been done, if what was said and what was directed had been given effect, I dare say that this young man would not have lost his life. So there is serious culpability, and we ought to start holding people that we have put in places of authority accountable when they fail to do what we all expect them to do, for which they have agreed to do. Salom, how is it that post the Jamestown incident 2021, directives were given? For example, we were all made to believe that there shouldn't be a situation where one police officer would escort a bullion van. It was also said that there ought to be the bullion van and at least more than one police officer in another vehicle escorting a bullion van. Clearly, in this instance, where Callistus has lost his life at such a prime time of his being, this didn't happen. So somebody ought to be held accountable. Who was it that failed to ensure that, as my other co-panelists said, that the standard operating procedure was implemented? Because we've all seen the video, and we saw the way the operation was very effectively and efficiently executed. That in itself raises a number of questions. But I know that Colonel Festus has dealt with that to, a very acceptable extent. So who was it that allowed this young police officer, or who gave the instruction to the young police officer to escort this bullion van and yet failed to ensure that what was expected was done? Because if he was in a different vehicle, if he had another compatriot or comrade with him in a separate vehicle, the way that these bandits were able to swiftly execute their operation clearly wouldn't have happened. And even the mere fact that there would have been another vehicle that was carrying at least more than one police personnel would have been a deterrent. So there is some questions that ought to be answered with regards to the Ghana Police Service, who authorized or who assigned this young man, and why what we all expect to be the standard operation procedure was not followed. Also, if you see the way it was done, how the police officer lost his life from eyewitnesses, and we all saw the video, how one of these armed robbers just went there and opened the door on the side of the passenger and probably shot at the police officer. The indications we are getting is that the police officer had a rifle, an AK-47.
Yes.
He didn't have a side weapon. And everyone who knows security matters and procedure, you know that in situations like that, if he had a side weapon, he could have reacted much more quickly than the rifle that he had. So why was it that he was not given a side weapon, but he was given only a rifle? So that is also another issue to be discussed. And as Colonel indicated earlier on, it is very clear that he was not given any protection in terms of body armor. He didn't obviously have a bulletproof, and he was not wearing a protective helmet. So why is it that those who were expected to have ensured that these accoutrements were available to him for protection failed to do the needful? So these are very, very serious questions that I believe ought to be answered to by the police service and, in fact, the Minister for Interior. But generally, this also raises the question that I've always said is the bane of our nation. Salom, you are a man of law. You are a lawyer by training. You are a Ghanaian citizen. You would agree with me that when it comes to making laws, putting down procedures, laying out protocols about what ought to happen, Ghana scores very high marks in the community of nations. Our problem has always been how to give effect to the laws, the processes, the procedures that we churn out. And if indeed we were up and doing with regards to giving effect to what we believe we ought to be doing, this ought not to have happened. This young man still should be alive. There has been a colossal failure on the part of the Ministry of Interior, on the part of the Ghana Police Service, and that is where I think that we in Parliament, as rightly indicated by the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, we ought to focus our attention, because they have supervisory authority. They have oversight responsibilities. Yes, the bank, yes. The company, Star Oil, yes. Even the Bullion van owners association, yes. But who are the representatives of the state? Who are those who are responsible? Has there been any monitoring since the directives to make sure that what we have said we have to do to protect and prevent what happened in 2021 from happening, we are doing? So these are very serious questions that I believe justify the call for the Ministers for Interior, in particular, and Defense, to come to Parliament and respond to. And mind you, the Ghana Police Service is also under
the Interior Minister.
Yes, under the Interior Minister, because these are questions that we have to ask them, and we need answers.
And the Bank of Ghana,
and the Bank of
which
Ghana
is the regulator of the space,
which is the regulator,
be answering questions.
So why have we waited this long? Granted that there was an initial deadline and it was extended. Do we have to sit down and get all bullion vans in place before we deploy them? The so-called 60% that we are told are in the system, why couldn't they be deployed? So this raises a number of critical questions. And I must sympathize with the family, with the widow, a very young couple, a young man with a lot of promise. I mean, you heard the wife indicate how personable he was in his community, how brilliant he was. He was just on the border of becoming a chartered accountant. I mean, it is very painful. And this ought not to have happened. There ought to be accountability. And I think it is about time we begin to ask public officers to resign for failure, either consciously or unconsciously. We cannot continue to tolerate this type of behavior where people who are paid by the taxpayers' money to ensure that we are safe, we are secured, we are protected, renege on their duty, either willingly or unwillingly, and then we just allow them to be in office as though nothing has happened. I mean, we need to take a stand as a nation and demand accountability from those that we have put in charge of running the affairs of state.
Very well. Colonel, let me come to you. I know you have to leave, but what effect will this incident, happening again and again, at least for about 3 times, this recent one, despite all the efforts that have been made or that are being made, we are told, by the banks and the security agencies, etc. What effect will this have on the morale of the police, especially those in that particular unit who go on escorts, etc.? What effect will it have on their morale, and how do we improve that?
Well, definitely, and most definitely, when you lose a colleague, you lose a comrade in uniform, it's very, very sad. And there's always this philosophical saying that it could have been me. But that task had to be performed. And this Callistus Amwa, the late, was not available. Another individual would have been assigned to that task. But definitely it's going to have an impact on the morale of the team, and indeed the morale of the Ghana Police Service as a whole, who put their lives in harm's way, sometimes without the necessary equipment, basic equipment for them to do their task. But as part of the measures to address this syndrome of bullion van attacks with accompanying fatalities, including to police officers, we must be very, very careful not to bring in the Ministry of Defense. Public safety, public law and order is the business of the Ghana Police Service. And the Ghana Police Service, as of now, has not justified why they couldn't have assigned more than one police officer. But even if the police don't have the numbers, assuming, and restricting ourselves to this administration from 2016, we are almost 8 years down the line when we've been talking about this police-civilian ratio and so on and so forth. Like in 2016, we had 36,000 thereabout police officers. How many police officers do we have at this time? What are the programs and the measures that we put in place to increasingly augment the size of the police officers to be able to do their work? The promises that the Member of Parliament made reference to, they are not promises per se. They are actually commitments. That once the government opens its mouth to say A, B, C, D, it must be fulfilled. So the requisite equipment for the Ghana Police Service to be able to discharge its roles and functions must be in place going forward. Otherwise, these criminals are not fools. They do their intelligence gathering, they do their intelligence analysis, they do their reconnaissance, and they will be able to select the time and the place and the manner in which they attack bullion vans. In fact, I've been on the Spintex Road this past week a few times, and I've seen not one, not two, several occasions when one bullion van is speeding, down on Spintex Road. So that's my first caveat.
Hello.
The police.
Hello. No,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
The police are capable of doing. I have joined. If they are properly. I'm already on. Secondly, it is not an argument that the police don't have full complement of equipment that they need. In all institutions where you have scarcity of resources, you create reserves and you create a pool where equipment is issued not on an individual basis, but on a duty assigned basis or assigned duty basis. So even if you don't have one bulletproof jacket for every police officer, and we don't have one ballistic helmet for every police officer, could we have a pool of these equipment at the requisite levels to be issued to police officers who go on assignment? That should be one of the things that we should be looking at. But broadly speaking, the advantage that the criminals had over the police officer, I think the honorable member once again has made reference to that. That they came with a shotgun, which is quite, operative.
Easy to manipulate.
Yeah, easy to manipulate. When this police officer would have been struggling to, arrange the position of his rifle or whatever it is. So the control of small arms and light weapons and the ammunition that go with them is a task that we must take seriously. Well, every now and then, these criminals come by, whether they are homemade or whether they come from Cote d'Ivoire or from Burkina Faso or wherever. They have easy access to these small arms and light weapons. And we need to take care of that. Lastly, not necessarily the least, is the freedom with which we have allowed motorbikes to operate at will in our society, and it's getting out of hand. The least inconvenience that other road users suffer is that you go and do your body works and respray, repaint your vehicle. In 1 week, you still have scratches. They smash against your side mirrors, they break the side mirrors. You need to import them from Germany or elsewhere if you don't find them at Kokompe or wherever, Bosiokan and so on and so forth. They are easily evasive, maneuverable. What's the guy's name? The journalist who was killed, Swali, for instance. They use motorbikes. Many of these or some of these heists have also used motorbikes. And yet, even in the presence of police officers, we see these motorbikes flouting all the traffic regulations that we have. So if we don't control the use of motorbikes, and indeed we should see in the subsequent report, if they are able, the police is able to enhance the video, whether those motorbikes are number plates. If they didn't have number plates, they did not drop from heaven. They drove on our roads to where they were. Invariably, they might have come across
the police officers,
one or two police checkpoints here and there. Then the question of the CCTVs or the laser cameras and so on, before I left Kenya until today, Nairobi is replete, full of Nairobi streets, full of these cameras. In fact, if we had been in Nairobi by this time, they would have been able to track where this convoy or this escort left and who followed them to which point and so on and so forth. But it was obvious that they were being trailed. And again, if I'm not deviating, driving is not just a matter of turning your steering wheel. It's a matter of also being aware of your environment. Are you being trailed? Are you being followed? Especially if you are escorting a high-value item like money. So these are some of the nitty-gritty. And let me end by saying that protection and safety and survival is not rocket science. Sometimes they boil down to the fundamental common sense things that one must put in place. So that is where I'll end. We need accountability, even though accountability is not going to bring back this young life. And the other thing that saddens me is that we go and give, I don't know how much it is, 25,000, whatever thousand. If I had died as a lieutenant, as I almost did, around Sefi, or say Kojo Krum and so on and so forth, and anybody at the time of a champions regime had given my family at the time maybe 1,000 Ghana cedis or 5,000, it would have been far, far, far lower than my net worth as I'm speaking. Only God knows where this young man would have reached. You know, even if he stayed in the police, he could have left as a chief superintendent, assistant commissioner of police, commissioner of police. He probably could have become an IGP. And yet, so soon in his life, he's had to leave us under these tragic circumstances. You know. So they are very seriously, and I think for once, as the other panelists have said, we must take national security and public safety a bit more serious than what we are seen to be doing as of now.
In terms of CCTV cameras and the reference you made to Kenya, we also have a similar thing in Ghana. We see the cameras installed on all junctions and streets across Accra at least. I think it was the Alpha project also that the Accra Metropolitan Assembly and a few other people, got quite some amount of money to do. The question is how operational is that and how are we using that to fight crime? And we are expectant that the police in the next few hours and in the next few days will come up with something that will give the public confidence. Talking about CCTV cameras, quite a number of people were shocked how within hours of the incident, CCTV footage, which we see around and we just showed on the screen, were made available by the filling station, because of course that was from their that's their internal video, which they only had access to, which was in their control. Does it spoil anything? Does it do anything about the investigation? Shouldn't they have just made this available to the police? Or you think it helps the discussion by the way we have, as in the public, had access to this particular video?
Are you still talking to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Colonel, yes.
That's a good point.
I have questioned the release of this video and the usefulness of releasing that video. I'm saying this because I'm an avid viewer of DSTV criminal investigation channel. And in all instances, the police go to in fact, they go to the environment, to case the environment, scan it, and find out whether there are public cameras or private cameras on individual houses and so on. when they find these cameras, they need the permission of the owner of the camera, to have access to that. And sometimes they have to go to court, to a judge, to obtain a warrant to come and obtain, the footage. Then they use the footage for analysis, because it is not every item of evidence that must be put out in the public domain. Mm-hmm. So why Star Oil or whoever is the owner of this video archive release it to the public, I don't know. For instance, the way and manner in which we saw the police officer being shot and how he slumped on the seat, that could have been edited out. Definitely the police was not going to show that part of the video. So we may have compromised the investigation that the police and other security or intelligence institutions will be doing. And I think in future, we must be circumspect about how we use this kind of material. We shouldn't be in a hurry, for instance. We should allow the police to have first access to analyze and see whether they can have some leads from the video footage. And they have done minimum. They have done a disservice to the bereaved family, compounded their grief and so on. Well, as usual on social media, it's a matter of just commenting, indeed including what we are doing. The video footage has helped us to be able to objectively analyze or discuss the issue, but I don't think in the best instance, the video should have been out.
Very well. Thank you so much, Kenneth Festus Abuaji. He's a security analyst, very experienced. Thank you so much for your time this morning. He has to leave. Thank you so much, Kenneth. We are, as always, very grateful for your time and for sharing your insight with us. This is the big issue. We are coming to you live from our studios here at 5 Owula Hansen Link. We are also on radio on City TV. We are on YouTube at CityTube. Your comments are welcome via our WhatsApp lines. We'll be happy to read them out to the rest of the world. A few of them have come in. I'll read them in due course. We're looking at the matter of the Bullion van robbery and whether we need a review of security measures. And indeed, as my guests have been saying, there's been a number of commitments or promises made after the June 2021 incident at Jamestown at Dedempo. And this one has happened again. Meanwhile, just a couple of days away is a deadline to replace all those bullion vans we see on the road, the makeshift bullion vans. They call them soft skin bullion vans to armored bullion vans. And the issue about armored bullion vans was a major one after the 2021 incident. Here we are, very young police officer, a father of a 1-year-old boy and husband of a young lady, soon to become chartered accountant, has been killed in this fashion. And very disturbing. And as always, we are speaking about it, and we hope that the duty bearers will do what is right. My guest, Dr. Clement Park, MP Bosa South, Kenneth Festus Abuaji, you just heard, security analyst, and Dr. Richmond Etuahene, who is a banking consultant. Dr. Etuahene, let me come to you. Let's move the discussion to, there's a talk that if we succeed at our attempt at running an almost cashless society, we will have no need really for a lot of these bullion vans, which in essence will cut down the number of potential incidents like this. What do you think about this?
Thank you very much. I'm laughing, Cashless society means a lot of investment. It's not just talking about digitization or whatever have you. I'll give you an example. If you walk to any of the developed countries, you can walk to a corner shop where you use your card to buy, to purchase, or the POS. Unfortunately, the informal sector of the economy is so huge that it will be very difficult even to think about looking about digitization or technology itself, because there is illiteracy, numeracy, and also the secrecy concerning all these things. So when people talk about these things like as if we can just replicate what is going on in UK or in America or Germany, it makes you wonder that even like Kenneth was saying, the facilities that you just drew my attention, the cameras on the road, how much are they operational? Are they operational? Who is monitoring it? What is the report coming out of it? So immediately you talk about this, you're talking about systems, and the systems are very expensive. If you're talking about POS in a shop, I mean, when we were in SSB, we tried Sika card. It phased out because even to have the system down and to have the connectivity is very difficult. So I think we should improve currently. We should look at the cash-based economy and decide to improve the system until such that the data would warrant us to go into this a cashless society. Let me give you an example. Example is, if you ask yourself, you know better than me. We wanted to do Ghana card. We wanted to do phone registration. How far have we fared on this? Even the state. I mean, you hear Ghana card, they said 8 million not there. Telephone says 8 million have been deactivated. Even the state itself, they who have the apparatus to ensure that this digital information are captured, are having it very difficult. Let alone the banks, the Bank of Ghana, the banks, and what have you. So I would plead with people that people talk about this digitization without looking at the context. Normally look at the context. Our context is not areas that, I mean, accessibility. I mean, we're talking about accessibility. You find it very difficult. So I believe that we should, as Kendall said, we should enhance the security on the cash base to such a time that we have built a platform. When I say a platform, a solid system where everybody can integrate into it and data will be assessed and used properly so that the banks can use their POS, the ATMs. I mean, let me share one example. In 2016, before I left banking college, a bank has placed an ATM at the premises of National Banking College. Do you know that that system didn't have inbuilt camera? Some people travel all the way. They say they came from far Eastern Europe. Came and do people. And how can a bank buy an ATM without building an inbuilt camera to record? So these are the things that when we talk about this digitization and POS and ATMs and what have we need to, as a nation, look at it critically. But let me ask a question before Honorable MP, Dr. Abba. There is something has beaten my mind so much when this incident happened. You wait until something has happened, then you call the ministers involved to question them. After 2 years, you should have been more proactive to have been even calling them regularly, looking at the state of robbery, the state of lawlessness in the society. So when I saw it, I said, do we have to wait for something to happen before you summon the interior, the defense, the police, and what have we? I believe that the legislature must be more proactive. When I say proactive, you must always be ahead of systems. Other than that, by the time you realize, you'll be doing post-mortems instead of pre-mortems, and that will not help the system. That is my comment about Doctor. If Doctor can help me to understand the processes in Parliament, because I have never been there. But as somebody who follow it, I thought these things 2017, 2016, or 21, we should have consistently followed these ministers to make sure that what they say are being implemented and enforced. It's only when it's happened. Today, when you call them and they come and talk, nice talking, and they leave, who is going to monitor that they have done what they're supposed to do? And if they don't do it, it is the citizenry that suffers. So, Dr. Park, that is my take. If you can educate me, because I like to be educated.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tuahine. I'm sure he will provide some answers. We are all interested in that. The question is, why do you MPs, representatives of the people, wait for things like this to happen before you call the person or the duty bearers to answer? Is there a part of Parliament that keeps a tab on some of these things, or parliamentarians or the House is just overwhelmed? There are too many things to watch or to keep a tab on? That's the question.
Well, Salam, that is a very legitimate question raised by my co-panelists, and I think it is important that he has brought it up, because as duty bearers, we have a responsibility to the people. And indeed, we are the only arm of government that directly represents the people, and we ought to be holding the executive accountable, especially so when, you know, there are situations where the executive fails to live up to expectation. Now, the reason why there seems to be a perception that we are not doing so is largely because of the way our parliamentary democracy is structured. You know, in our system, most of the important committees of Parliament and Parliament itself is led by members of Parliament drawn from the party that forms government. So, by default, and perhaps as a result of our patronage system of politics, you tend to have those of us who don't belong to the party that has formed government, usually leading or raising these issues and trying to get action and calling for accountability as far as matters of this nature are concerned. Also, because those who are at the helm of affairs are drawn from the ruling party, there is always this reluctance to support the calls that we make. And in fact, to be blunt, in some instances, there are deliberate obstacles put in the way to ensure that government appointees and ministers do not come and respond to queries. So if you look at the parliamentary records, for example, you look at business statements, you look at other papers, you go to the table office and look at questions, you will realize that over 80% of the questions tend to be filed by those of us who don't belong to the party that has formed government. That is one. Two, we actually have a committee of Parliament that we call the Government Assurance Committee. And if only that committee is up and doing and properly resourced.
But I thought that was chaired by an opposition MP.
Yes, but I said, if only that committee is properly resourced. In fact, it's not chaired by the opposition. It is a Public Accounts Committee.
I thought the Public Accounts subsidiary and one other. Well, I stand to be
yes,
corrected.
this Government Assurance Committee is not chaired by the opposition. In fact, I wish it was, like the Public Accounts. But the Government Assurance Committee has the mandate of holding ministers to account, especially so when they make commitments, when they come to the floor of Parliament, respond to questions, make statements, and promise or assure members of Parliament and consequentially the rest of Ghanaians that they are going to take a particular action. And this is why my colleague, Honorable James Agalga, is asking that the Ministers for Defense and Interior be brought back to Parliament, because when the 2021 incident in, I think, what was the suburb? In Accra, was it Osu? The earlier incident, the 2021 incident.
That's Jamestown.
Jamestown occurred. Promises were made, assurances were given. So it is now the responsibility of the Government Assurance Committee to wheel them back and ask them why they failed to give effect to the assurances and the promises that they made to the good people of Ghana. So indeed, we have a mechanism to hold them accountable and to ensure that they are punished. Indeed, they ought to be punished. There ought to be some sanctions when ministers fail to meet the expectations in terms of assurances that they have given. And I remember we spoke about education last week.
Yes.
And I made the case of how the Minister for Education had promised Ghanaians that textbooks were going to be available to all public basic schools, and had failed to do that. The Government Assurance Committee had gone on a field trip, had done a check to certain schools, only to realize that what the minister has said he could not do. So I know that that committee is going to summon the minister back to explain why what he said was going to be done has failed. So there is a mechanism, but I think why we are not getting the needed dividends
it's not
is because of the political dynamics and the lack of proper resourcing of committees such as the Government Assurance Committee.
Very well. So a number of the messages have come through, and let me just take two of them. We'll take a break and then we'll move on to the next matter. This one from George from Russia says, I think the public should be sensitized about what to do in cases like the Bullion van robbery. I noticed there was massive contamination of the crime scene. This will make the work of identifying the individual involved very difficult. Yes, this is a big issue. Thank you so much, Dr. Etienne Hine, for joining us on this segment. We appreciate your time and your professional insight as well. We're so grateful. Dr. Clement Apak joins the next panel. Colonel Festus Abuaji, security analyst, joined us earlier. And we'll take a short break. When we return, we'll delve into the matter of the licensure examination, where over 80% of the teachers fail their exam. We want to know whether it is a failure of, it's a problem with the candidate, or it's an institutional failure in terms of how they were prepared to get into the exam process. Don't go away. This is the big issue.
This is the neighborhood I'm having my twins.
The very reason why I took it for us. See, the price is very good and it's spacious to contain all of us.
Alphabet City. Now I'm a landlord. I don't pay rent. And my Airbnb business is booming.
To me, Pamini, bank and I'm another Alphabet City. The pension pay me 20%. The payment plan, I want to share just say very smooth.
This is a healthy place to raise our families and creating peace. Come on, be my neighbor.
Alphabet City, the ABC of Home Sweet Home.
Alphabet City is a classy and peaceful gated community in Sakumono. We have 24/7 top-notch security and high-quality access roads. We have 3 bedrooms and 2 washrooms, 3 bedrooms and 3 washrooms with boys' quarters. We have 3 bedrooms and 4 washrooms. We have 2 bedrooms and 2 washrooms, all with beautiful kitchens and kitchenettes. Call Alphabet City on 0240-111119 or 050-44-99999. Alphabet City, the ABC of Home Sweet Home.
It's the dawn of a new day, the day of a competition. From the shores to the pools to the beaches across the land, if you fancy yourself a competitive swimmer, this is for you. The CCTV National Swimming Championships is happening on the 15th and the 16th of July 2023 at the Trust Sports Emporium. To register, WhatsApp your name, age and contact details to 0558-973-973 or call 0205-973-973. The CCTV National Swimming Championships is brought to you by CCTV with support from 97.3 City FM and the Ghana Swimming Association. They transported us to another world with their first thrilling R&B live performances last week.
Sexy love, the things you do, it means more. Keep it running back to you. I wanna be the one who you believe in your heart, sent from heaven. But that's a piece of me who leaves when you got me, gotta set it right. You got it bad when you on the phone. Hang up when you call right back. You got it bad when you miss it, one. You like a dream come true. 2, just wanna be with you. 3, girl, it's plain to see. Oh, now I see all of me. It's so unbelievable. It's like you got superpowers. In my minutes into hours, you got more than 2020, babe. What's happening to me in the dark? Can you tell me what it means? I
ready to experience exhilarating performances this week as our contestants take on the musical genre soul. Watch them showcase their vocal range and musical prowess in the hope of becoming the next Voice Factory champion. Make sure you vote for your favorite contestant via the short code *920*973# and enter the contestant's code across all networks. You can also visit www.citytvonline.com to vote. The Voice Factory Season 5 is powered by City TV with support from 97.3 City FM and is brought to you by Ebony Condoms, refreshed by Eddie's Pizza, official voting partner Nalo Solutions, refreshed by McBerry Twist Cupcakes, and sponsored by Copen Hospitality.
Yeah, welcome back to The Big Issue. We are on radio on City FM, TV obviously at City TV, and we are on City Tube as well on YouTube. Feel free to join the discussion with your comments, and we'll be happy to read them out to the rest of the world. Some of the messages that have come through. Good morning, Big Issue team, the Big Issue team. I think the police should educate the citizenry on approach to how to approach crime scenes. I am concerned how the bystanders rush to the police officer in their effort to help save his life, hence destroying the fingerprint evidence left by the shooter. This Koku from OEB. The absence of bulletproof jackets further highlights the need for immediate action to ensure the safety of our police force. We must provide them with the necessary equipment and resources to effectively carry out their duties while minimizing risk to their lives. My heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family during this difficult time. This is from Citizen Francis. Can the state take responsibility by using the military for bullion services? In Togo, about 4 armed personnel in armored vehicles carry cash. Well, good morning, hashtag the big issue. Let's say they can only use the pickup. We should ask ourselves, what was the security in place? Was there any camera in and out of the pickup? A camera that can hear conversations in the vehicle? Was there a tracking system in the money they carry along? Because when they steal the money, they don't have time to open the money back. So at least the tracker in the midst of the money can help the police track them at least in the next 2 hours. Why are the drivers not trained to handle guns? Anything in this country is a joke. My 2 cents. This is Kobe in Adenta. Good morning, Selom. Hearing the wife is really heartbreaking. My condolences to the bereaved family. All right. Okay. So, yes, we get into the next discussion, which is the licensure exam. The licensure exam started sometime in 2018, and the licensure exam really is a provision, or it's a provision of law. The Education Act provides for that. I think Section 8 or 9 of the Education Act provides for that. In terms of ensuring professional standards, the National Teaching Council is to advise the minister to do a number of things, and we think that one of those to improve standard and quality of teaching, etc., is the institution of the licensure examination. So that started in 2018, despite a lot of pushback from the teacher unions, etc. It has come to stay. We had the first cohort writing the particular exam, 2019, etc. We had those exams. The results were not perhaps as bad as what we have seen this year. Now, this year, 7,728 students or teachers took the exam, and only 1,277 passed, leaving 6,451, representing 83.5% of them failing, just 16.5% passing. Mind you, these are not people random people drawn from places. These are graduates, people who have been trained in education from the University of Education, Winneba, and the University of Cape Coast, Ghana's foremost universities that train teachers, and colleges of education. All they do is to train people to teach. But we've had this performance many have described as abysmal. What is the cause of this, and what is really the use of the licensure exam as well? others have questioned. We have, to help us do the discussion, of course, the Honorable Dr. Clement Park, MP, Bosa himself, an academic, and is a ranking member on the Education Committee, Deputy ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament, very passionate about matters of education. Nimako Owusu Dome, who is Director, Assessment and Examination at the National Teaching Council, the body responsible really for the exam and everything. And then also we have Prince Obinhima, President of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAC, to help us do this discussion. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the program. I started with you, Nimako Owusu Dome, Director, Assessment and Examination. If you can quickly take us through what the essence really of the licensure exam is to be, and whether it is limited to just private schools or public schools.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me this big platform to discuss these topical issues. This week, NTC has come into the media for obvious reason that the math failure of the candidate who starts the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination. I'm also happy to meet Honorable MP. The first time of meeting him. I usually listen to him from afar.
On education matters, bashing your council and your
I'm very grateful to meet you here. I also want to say thank you to my boss, Dr. Christian Adeboku, the Registrar of National Teaching Council. Also want to say good morning to all my family members and my friends who have supported me up to this point. Back to your question, I would like to state something about the background or the history of the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination. As you rightly said, it started in the year 2018. We had Education Acts of 2008 at 778. The Section B, Section 10, B and C made it mandated or create that the council should recommend to the Minister for Education professional standard required for registration of teachers and then issue of licenses to teachers. So as part of the requirement, the council decided to introduce the Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination. So the first examination was written in the year 2018, as you said. But along the line, the Education Act 778 was repealed and replaced by Education Regulatory Body Act of 2020 at 1023.
Okay.
In that act, if you look at the Section 60B, it made it explicit that the council should conduct examination for people who successfully complete their teacher education programs. So this means that the exam can only be conducted when the students have successfully completed. The word there is successfully. So even if you have a referral paper and you are training institution, you cannot still write this particular exams. So the examination continued, and to date, we've written as many as 10 examinations.
So how many per year?
On average, between 16 to 20. But
between 16 to 20 times.
Thousand, yeah.
No, I mean, how many times do they sit the exam?
Yeah, twice a year.
Okay.
Yeah, twice a year. So we usually have the main exams around September, October. Then those who will not do well, we organize races for them around first quarter of the ensuing year. That's what we normally do.
So what we are seeing now is a receipt.
Oh yes, yes. This one is for racist candidates. Along all this while, we conduct exam for both racist and the fresh. But because the council is embarking on reform to introduce what we call subject-based Ghana Teacher Licensure Examination, we decided to give 3 more chances to those who are associated with the traditional subject. When I say traditional subject, we are talking about we conduct exams on the numeracy, literacy, essential professional skills. These have been the 3 papers that the candidates write exams on. But this year, we want to introduce what you call subject-based examination. So the council thought it was that then, because the difference between the reform and the old one, those doing the old one, we should give them some chances to redeem themselves, those who have referrals. So we decided to give them 3 chances to redeem themselves. So last year, one was conducted somewhere in December, and this year we've conducted one in May. The last one is to be conducted in this year, November. So this particular exam was written by only race candidates. And some of them, the list that someone has written is twice. Some of them have written 3 times, 4 times, even up to 10 times. So we've sieved them up to this level.
So these are like the very bad students or the very bad teachers, to put it bluntly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so, but
because these are people who have failed.
Yes,
and
you are right.
You are right. The last chances they have to redeem themselves.
You are right. So this,
like you said, you've sieved them. So the better ones have gone through.
Yeah,
and these ones are very.
Yes, I always make the analogy of using how when we prepare a palm soup, you know how we do it.
Yes.
The moment you get the first one, I want to get something for the chaff. Definitely, you will not get the best. So that's how it has been. The good ones are already. So
this is a justification for the poor outing you've seen?
Yes, definitely. That's, if you look at the statistics, we've recorded 73% before, 67, 78, 77, 69. It was only 2021. The first exams that we recorded 23.1, and there was a reason for that. That particular year, we decided to make some reforms. So what we did was that in order to avoid the temptation, let me put it this way, we used the colleges of education and the universities as our examination centers. So some of the candidates usually select their former institution at their center. So this time we wanted to avoid the temptation of some of these invigilators being compromised. We decided that the candidates should write the exams in a neutral ground. So what we did was that when you key in your college index number, if that center is one of the centers for the examination, that center will be taken out, because it means that you attended that college and therefore you will not be allowed to write that particular center. So that was one of the changes that we did that particular year. Then the second one that we did was that in the same examination room, you have same questions. So your question number 1 is my question number 1, but your A is my B or D. So in the same examination room, the same question, but options differed. So definitely, if you try to ask for help, then you are going to get wrong answer. So these were the 2 reforms that we did that particular year, and the results that we got was 23.1.
And this is to assume that the papers were properly sorted, so that in marking them, you don't mix them and the students will suffer in the end.
Oh yeah, we have different marking schemes. So at the end of the exam, we segregate. Then we give different marking scheme for each, because we know we code them. You code them, so we know which one is which marking scheme is meant for this. Let's say alpha or beta. So that's how we do it.
So somebody's gone through, and these are graduates.
Yes, please.
Because they should have successfully completed their courses. These are diplomas and degrees. These are people who have gone through university education, passed, the difficulty of university life, exams, quizzes, IAs, etc. And they come here and they are unable to pass this exam. Is that not something that should be very concerning or even curious to you?
Yes, I agree with you, because at times if you look at some of the scripts, you then ask yourself, how were they managed to pass through right from the basic to secondary school to university? So at times you wonder whether the kind of assessment that we give to these people right from the beginning to the end is something that we need to look at, because if a graduate or a diplomate cannot construct one sentence without an error, then it's a concern.
So some of the questions we saw on social media were objectives or multiple choice questions. Do you have a subjective or written part to the exam?
Yes, we have subjective one. So, as I said, we have EPS, that's Essential Professional Skills. It's made up of, it's made up of 60 MCQ. So that one they use 1 hour 15 minutes to answer. So that one there's no subjective. They're all MCQs. They also have numeracy. Numeracy is made up of 30 MCQs and then 3 theories. So the 30 MCQ is for 30 marks, and then 3 theories also for 30 marks. So each question is 10 marks for the theory. Then if you look at the literacy, we also have 30 MCQ, then 1 comprehension and 1 composition. So the comprehension is 10 marks, and then composition 20 marks, and the MCQ is 30 marks, making it 60. So all the papers are marked over 60. After we convert to 100%.
So what preparation do they get before writing this exam? Is there like, of course, there's the numeracy, literacy, and essential professional skills. Should I call them subjects that you examine them on?
Yes.
Is there like a pack for them to have specific details on what you, for example, question them or test them on? So what's the preparation for the exam like?
Yeah,
or they just have to register, and on the day of the exam, they show up without any prior information on
we have content areas on our website. And let me say that we have what you call National Teacher Standard document. And that document was used to develop a teacher education curriculum. So it means that they were trained through the use of teacher education curriculum, which was developed from the National Teacher Standard. So it is something that's not new to them. Just that if you take numeracy and the literacy, we normally test them on basic numeracy. It's not mathematics. Literacy is not pure English. You know that largely the medium of instruction in Ghana is English, and therefore, as a teacher going to classroom, we expect you to exhibit competency in literacy. And we know that as a teacher, we also mark exercise, do some addition, subtraction, percentages, proportion, and even ratios. And at times we need to even draw a graph to know whether the average performance of the class is going up or down. You need to do all certain. So we normally test them on numeracy about basic things that they can use to practice in the classrooms. So that's what we normally test them on.
I see.
And then I must say that we have content areas on our website that the candidates supposed to go and they look at the areas where we set the question from. And the year 2021, when I said the pass rate was low, when the Minister for Education heard that, he summoned NTC, that what can we do to help this student, because the pass rate was not the best. So he asked us to give questions on our website. So we assembled a team of experts, answered past questions, and then give reason why A is the answer or B is the answer. So then when the students register, we give them a link, and the link will lead them to where we have these questions. Even though they will not go and meet same questions in the examination, but at least they will have a fair idea about the trend of the question and the nature of the question that we want them to answer.
Very well. I have Prince Obinhima, who is the president of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAC. A lot of these students, or teachers I should say, were produced from their institutions, the colleges of education. Hello, good morning, sir. Welcome to the program. The results obviously shows that the training we have given to the teachers or the students has not been enough. Is that the case? Hello, Prince.
Oh?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
sir?
I can hear you now.
Yes, good morning to you and good morning to the other panel members, especially Mr. Imapun. As my boss, I have seen you for the first time, honorable. I really, really appreciate your contribution to education and all the other things. It's a very big platform, and I thank you for the opportunity. I know that across Ghana, in all the 46 public colleges of education, everybody is listening. I will use this opportunity to salute all my members, all my national executive officers, particularly Mr. John Newton Komi, who is blasting his birthday today at Ahoy Soma Clinic, and my wife Valentina Osehima, a proud physics teacher at Kimbu College of Education. Your question, I think I am particularly excited that competition has now been put into the right perspective, because prior to this, the information out there was that the teachers had gone to write the exam generally, or it was a general exam, and we have had this number of failure, or recorded this number of failure. I think we now understand that Macron has done justice to that by saying that there's a backlog of people who have failed severally, and they have been given opportunity to redeem themselves because there's a new arrangement coming into place, and the system thought about them and gave them that opportunity. We teach in the colleges, and I am particularly interested in the competition for two reasons. One, because our students largely take part in writing the licensure exams, and then two, as a union, we have that responsibility to advocate for good teacher education policy. I will come to your question, but I also want to throw light on the fact that it's not only students from the College of Education who wrote even this exam. If you look at the breakdown, we have a whole lot of institutions that, based on the new framework that we have for training teachers, also train teachers. We have UCC that presented 2,409, PW presenting 2,226, Jackson presenting 1,347, and the colleges 1,168. In fact, the institutions are many: UDS, Amused, Valley View, College University, Ghana Baptist, Christ Apostolic University, West End, KNUST. It goes on and on and on. Even foreign students are part of it. So it becomes quite unfair when we want to, rope in the college teacher and create the impression as if we aren't doing well. But as I said earlier on, I think the blame game has stopped so that we wouldn't be blaming the system has come to stay. The laws establishing the National Teaching Council give the opportunity to regulate the teaching profession, to have license, to ensure, provide license for the teachers, to ensure that we have the standard, professional standing and status of the, teachers up in place. And how do we all of us go about it? That is why, I'm going to put my discussion under three key perspectives. That is the role of the NCC in professionalizing teachers, and I will look at the real challenges we have, and then we look at the way forward, which I am very much interested in, the way forward. I think for the National Teaching Council, we all admit that this has come to stay. We are training teachers who should be able to meet the standards elsewhere. Today, we have some of our teachers practicing elsewhere. In other jurisdictions, they are accepted because they accept that what we are doing is not any different from what is happening globally. So in our own part, in our own little corner in Ghana here, we should pride ourselves as doing things that conform to the standards and the national teaching standards also, National Teaching Council also leading, the way. The past week, as Mr. Macron rightly put, has been between 60 and 78%. And this cannot be bad or cannot be said to be bad in any given situation. The real problem, I think, is the fact that whether we like it or not, under the current economic situation that we find ourselves in, job security, what have you, teaching remains one of the avenues that provide ready-made employment to people who have completed schools. So people devise all sort of strategies to be there because they want to be employed. And what mechanism are we putting in place to ensure that the people who come in are not just coming in? Because you come in as a teacher, you are going to be, part of the people who churn out the workforce, the manpower needs of the country. And it's important that you yourself, you become very solid. It's important that you yourself, you are not somebody who just wants employment. So to which extent? Because if the person joins the college and then he completes the college, out there, when he's practicing, there's no way of interviewing him to be sure that this person is a real material for teaching. This teacher is ready psychologically, physically, mentally, and what have you, so that we can entrust our children into its care. That is why there is the need for us to revolutionize how we go about things. In fact, we are not telling the beautiful things that we are doing. Last year, something very, very, very important happened in the country, and I'm surprised, extremely surprised that the media and all the other people have kept quiet about it. Last year, under the auspices of the Teacher Education Journal, that Larry Addo is the editor-in-chief, in Accra, we had a program where we had a dialogue, national dialogue on national teacher education. We brought together stakeholders. In fact, the creme de la creme when it comes to expertise in teacher education. It was chaired by Ms. Elizabeth, and we all know the profile if we talk about, teacher education. We know, a standard. We don't need to spend time about that. We had the minister himself, Minister of Education, who was there. We had Professor Joseph Anamwa Mensah, Robin Todd, who is the current board chair. Penco President then, Dr. Yamiche, was there. My humble self, Prince of Master Saga, led a team. In fact, representatives of the vice chancellors of all the 5 public universities that are also part of teacher training sessions were also there. In fact, we spent 2 days. And if you want to talk about people who are on the ground, as far as teacher training is concerned, to tell you what the realities are. You can't baptize these people. After the 2 days, these were the observations. And respectfully, I will be happy if you give me some few minutes to read this.
Yes. So go ahead, but you need to summarize it because just go ahead, but you need to quickly summarize it.
Thank you. I will be pretty fast, and I appreciate that. The participants we discussed that as part of the observations, 1, the quality of students entering the colleges to be trained as professional teachers needs to be reassessed. For the situation where parents and the prospective students see college as a second option should no longer be the case. 2, there is a need for some form of entrance assessment into teacher training institutions. And then some concerns were raised about admission process, blah, 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 blah. As part of the resolution, Professor Anamwa Mensah, Teacher Fletcher, all the people, vice chancellors, these were the resolutions. 1, there should be re-examination of the modalities of admission into the colleges of education by all major stakeholders. There should be policy review to allow for the admission of foreign and mature students into the colleges of education and other things. But of course, what I am interested in is the fact that there is the need for us to revolutionize, the admission process and how we admit people into the system. In fact, we all agreed. Reports went out there as far as the cabinet. We presented, reports to the minister, hoping that it will be presented to cabinet for discussion. Now, all of us agreed that do we have to give these students the opportunity to be part of the teacher training session, go through the rigorous process of training, spend 4 years over there before realizing that some of these people are not teacher material? No. I believe that, or I form part of the people, I'm part of the people who agree that there should be strict measures so that before even you enter, there should be entrance examination so that we identify you as having what it takes to be there. Because you and I know that there is the correlation between certificates that people hold today and their performance is just not there. There is no one-to-one correlation. People use all devious means People have set up private institutions. People go there. You just need to register, pay your money. At the end of the day, fantastic grades will be given. And we are allowing all these things to go on. And these are people who will come. They will apply. They have opportunity. They've gone through, and they want to be part of the teaching profession. I believe that irrespective of your grades, the cabinet, the people, we should walk the talk. We should agree that these people, the professionalization should start at the college level, the entrance level, where these people should be subjected to examination, where these people, even after the exam, they should be interviewed, just like any other profession. Because you cannot just, call yourself a law student because you have passed SHS, go and sit at the law school and start. You need to go through their entrance exam. Medicals, we need to go through their entrance exam. That is where the problem lies. I believe we should be able to do that. We should put all, political reasonings and other things aside and do this as professionals. As think tanks in teacher education, we think this is the only way we can salvage the teaching profession and salvage the manpower, needs of the nation going forward. Thank you.
I don't know if this is accurate or correct, but since you teach, maybe you would have also come across this view that it's not a very bright students that go to the colleges of education. It's students who fail to go to the universities and other similar institutions that find their way into the colleges of education, generally. And so what you have to work with right from the start are people who are not up there. So you have to grapple with people with some deficiencies as far as their intellectual might may be concerned. Is this a concern that is true? Has this come to your knowledge? And how do you manage this, given that the creme de la creme may want to go to the universities or go to similar institutions, and so you are left with people not so up there to train?
Well, it's the perception. I just want to let you know that our students now, those who are coming in and measure up to the standard when it comes to any other institution. We have very intelligent students who are there, first-class students who are just like any other first-class students in any institution. So we have some of them who have the desire, who have the will, who have the capacity, who have what it takes to be, teachers in our current dispensation. And we also have a group. This is where I want to, excuse my language, rubbish does other perception as well. We also have other, group of people who hide behind numbers. And these are people who are trying unsuccessfully to secure job avenues elsewhere, teaching, after stepping stone, when they come in there. Some may have the qualification, but they would not have the flair, they would not have the love, they would not have the passion. You need a passion to be able to go through the program. Some of them too, like I said, we also have people who hold fantastic, certificates as they bring, and on the face of the certificate, you admit them. But when they come, you realize that they find it difficult to defend the certificate they brought from the SHS. That is why I am saying that. To be able to weed out these people and not to keep them in the system for 4 years, waste government resources, waste other people's opportunities, let us subject them to entrance exams. Once you write exams, you can be assessed at all levels, competition, or literacy, at what have you, the little things that you need to be a teacher. And even if you've done that, just like any other profession, after writing the exam, you should be subjected to some form of, interview, so that we can rest assured that the people who are coming are people who are good enough, and then when they finish, they will be able to pass license, and we can entrust our children into their care.
Very well. So Dr. Park, you sit at a different place. You have oversight over executive, etc. The situation is not as bad as we thought, given the explanation just put out by Mr. Dimako Dome, that they are phasing out the traditional or the way the exam was before to a subject-based one. And so they've given the people who couldn't make it, some chances to redeem themselves. And those guys who have written and have failed now have written at least 2 times. So it means that the best part of them have passed and they have gone. So these are, I don't want to call it, these are those who are not very good amongst them. So this kind of result should be expected. I don't know if the explanation has changed anything.
Well, Salom, I actually disagree with you. As a lawmaker, policy maker, I'm always mindful of national resources and national needs. Like it or not, whether they have written 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, we can't run away from one basic fact. They have gone through the mill. Clearly, they didn't just wake up one day from wherever they came from and became teachers and therefore qualified to take an exam that would make them professional so that they can get licenses. We are speaking about people who have gone to primary, junior high school, senior high school, a college of education, either public or private, and or have enrolled in a university to study toward becoming a professional teacher. And almost at any of these levels, state and public resources have been expended. So the argument cannot be confined, or we cannot excuse this because perhaps the candidates who have failed have had more than one attempt to become professional teachers. And so that is why I strongly believe that we ought to use this as a basis to conduct a thorough assessment of the entire arrangement. I have, for example, called that the committee that I belong to ought to summon the stakeholders in the area of teacher education to appear before the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Education so that we can take a critical look, not just at this, but the whole architecture around the way we train our teachers and how we certify them. If you listen to the president of the teachers of the CETA, you would see that he has broadened the conversation to even include matters of quality from the onset. And I agree with that. I will come to that. But the short answer to your question is that I don't think that the explanations that we have given would be sufficient. I also say so because you are in the media. There are various hypotheses and theories that are floating around. For example, there is a school of thought that actually is suggesting that if you look at the numbers that have failed, even within the context of the explanations that we have been given, that perhaps this may be related to some of the IMF conditionalities.
So we can
that they could be an ulterior motive that may have informed the numbers of the failure, because the IMF and the conditions that we have signed onto clearly is putting a constraint or a limit into the numbers that can be recruited into the public service, whether that is true or not.
But we also know that these are quite teaching or education and health, etc., are not part of that.
No, but I'm only letting you know why I am justified in calling for a probe. The only way we can put this matter to rest and to be able to give the people confidence and to be able to say that these are the reasons why this happened is for the Parliamentary Subcommittee to invite the stakeholders and drill deep, go beyond what is in the public domain or what is on the surface, so that we can truly get to the bottom of this issue. Now, I am glad that we are getting a breakdown, but you see, we need further details, and that is why if the NTC and other stakeholders appear before our committee, I believe it will help us. Because if we are being told that these are candidates who are not taking the exam for the first time, and that some may have taken it multiple times, what categories are we looking at? Because we have two main streams currently by which people can train to become teachers. You either come through a college of education or you come through a university. So what are the categories? What are the percentages?
Are they assessed on the same questions or the same?
These are matters that we ought to be asking. But the point I'm making is that, is it the case that more of those who have failed to make it over these multiple times are from one stream or the other? And if so, how did they enter those streams in the first place? how did they manage to get through the spectrum to then even qualify to take the licensure exam? So there are a lot of very nuanced questions that we ought to be asking, for which we need answers.
Given his explanation, of course, exams, people will pass, people will fail.
Yes.
So if, let's say, I don't know how many teachers have written, maybe about 100,000 teachers have written it in the past, and this is the last batch sort of you have who did not pass. Obviously, you can't expect high numbers like that.
No, I agree with you. There is no exam that you would expect 100% outcome. But the issue at hand, and what has drawn public attention, is the quantum that the public deems to be high.
And these are bad
he has tried to, no, you can't conclude.
No, I mean, people who haven't passed.
You cannot conclude.
People who haven't passed.
That is what you
after
say.
Several attempts.
That is what you say. That is what the NTC is telling us. But there are people who have doubts. Those who are propounding a different hypothesis that this could be related to IMF conditionalities. You cannot dismiss their case. So the only way we can get to the bottom of the issue is if we sit down and we get the information, we interrogate all the stakeholders, and then we can affirm what they are saying or challenge what they are putting in the public domain. So the point I want to make is that there is more to this than meets the eye as far as the public is concerned. And the only way to verify
is a proper proof
and or dismiss any hypothesis is to put this to a strict proof by an independent body like the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Education. Marcellum, for me, I have always argued that the teaching profession ought to be the most highly held in esteemed profession. Because we are all who we are because of teachers. If I had a wish, and given my experiences living and studying abroad, I mean Norway, Canada, the US, I know for a fact that if you go to those so-called advanced countries where we go to or we look up to for best practices, becoming a teacher is no walk in the park. And once you become a teacher, it is of a very high standard. We ought to be looking at that. The teaching profession must attract the best of the best, because we are talking about the vessels through which we are going to create the minds and the persons and the attitudes that we need to be able to move forward and to develop as a nation. And that also means that we must make sure that we put in place the needed support networks and pump in the requisite resources, including ensuring that teachers get the best conditions of service. Not the politicians, not the lawyers, not the doctors, but the teachers. Because that is the profession which is the mother of all professions. And I have always had a problem with the way we are handling the teaching profession, and I dare say that we have turned it upside down. Why is it that, as you said earlier, it is those who are not fit for purpose that should be going to the teaching profession?
The fit for purpose is not my
well, I'm paraphrasing.
But the point is,
the point I'm making is that it should be the opposite.
Yes,
we should make the teaching profession attractive. We should give them the needed resources, and we should make sure that the best actually go into teaching, because we all know the value of teachers. Now, the president of the CETAG made some very revealing comments. And I think it is important that as lawmakers, as policymakers, we always listen to those, quote unquote, who are in the theater. We must listen to them and give effect to what they say. I say so because, you know, Charles and Nagrat have also made all kinds of recommendations about how to improve the Free Senior High School policy and its implementation and the challenges. And I'm hearing the same coming from CETA. Indeed, as somebody who is drawn from academia, and I still keep my networks, and that is why I'm always passionate about issues to do with education, because I'm an educationist and a teacher myself by default. I can tell you that there are questions and there are demands for us to look at quality of the students that we churn out from the secondary to the tertiary. Some of them come with very good grades. Make no mistake. They come with very good, stellar grades. But when they enter the tertiary institutions, they are found wanting. And that is why the call for an institution of an entrance exam, as the CTAC president has indicated, is gaining a lot of currency, not only within the context of the teacher training, the colleges of education, but even within the context of the universities. There are complaints. And for the colleges of teacher training colleges or colleges of education, I can tell you that this is a matter that came to the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Education. But when we were doing the hearing towards passing the budget for the different agencies under the Ministry of Education, the Adepoku, yes, Christian Adepoku, who did this presentation, actually made that case. He had told us
about the entrance exam.
Yes. In fact, I mean, I'm being honest and straightforward, because I mean, it is important that we speak truthfully so that we can see where we can all converge in the national interest. The document that he presented to us, if you look at item 19, it is titled Entrance Examination. Entrance Examination. And they had budgeted some 7.8 million Ghana cedis for that. So naturally, I had to seek further and better particulars. So I asked my colleague, Dr. Adepoku, why they had the need to institute an entrance examination. And in fact, the point he made is exactly what the CTAC president made, that there was concern about the caliber and competence of students who are coming into the colleges of education. And therefore, there had been a proposal which had even gone to cabinet, suggesting that there should be the institution of an entrance exam.
But the only reason why standard is it not a general situation? Because when you speak to people like you who were in the university many years ago,
I know,
and look at the quality of people getting into the universities now, you obviously have issues.
I agree.
So should the entrance exam then be limited to just College of Education?
No, I have made the case that I have heard complaints from colleagues in the traditional universities who are also complaining about quality. But they are yet to come out publicly and to make a proposal. But once, you know, the teachers in the colleges of education have made that proposal, which has actually been captured by the NTC, they have made progress.
Very well.
So because of where I sit
and
the position I occupy, I have to be careful not to be the one championing. And you know the politics around the implementation of the free senior high school policy, how well it has been, the challenges thereof, and my own public positions on matters. So if I were to lead that charge, it will look as though, quote unquote, Dr. Park is running down the program. I mean, let's miss no words.
I get that.
The president himself has chastised people who have sought to question the quality of students who are coming through the free senior high school policy. And I don't want to be that. But the point I'm seeking to make is that the only reason why my committee decided to hold back in approving the 7.8 million Ghana cedis request was because cabinet was yet to give approval. So we told Christian Adepoku that we would have to hold this back, and they should look at another area of utilizing this resource, because the challenges are numerous, whilst we wait for the cabinet decision. Once cabinet then went on to give approval to the policy, then we could give the approval for the implementation of the entrance examination. So I thought it was important to let it be known that indeed what CTAG is saying has come to the attention of the committee through the good works of the NTC, and it tells me that the NTC, at the very minimum, is listening to stakeholders, and I think that is commendable. But that still does not take away my request that the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Education should hold a hearing on this matter, because I think there is more that ought to be uncovered. If for nothing at all, let's get the details so that perhaps we can put to rest the theory that this mass failure could be as a result of government trying to satisfy the conditionalities of the IMF to reduce the numbers of public sector recruitments.
I see, but I think that has been discredited. That is to be discredited because the IMF makes room for employment into areas of health and education. I'm aware of that, but that's fine. Mr. Nimako Owusu Dome. So just a few points. So this exam is only meant for teachers who want to be posted to public schools. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
So what does it mean then for private schools? So private schools can go ahead and employ people who are not licensed?
Yes. Before I come to that, my brother Obin Prince made a point about the entrance examination. In fact, the forum that he talked about, NTC was represented, and I made a presentation. So in principle, all the principals and then tutors agreed that the entrance examination is needful and should be conducted. So we are still engaging the stakeholders to introduce the entrance examination. The entrance examination is not meant for only students going to college of education, but any student who want to do education program.
Even in the universities?
Yes.
So you get, how does it work? Universities open, like there's admission, opening of admission, if that's the right phrase to use. And so everybody else applying for other courses will not be subject to any examination, but just those who want to do education.
Yes, because the NTC regulate teaching profession. So other courses, we are not, we don't control the other courses, but what you control are the programs run by the university and college, which are education.
But
so we want
operationally, how is that going to work? Because I may choose a different course as my first choice, because universities choose courses. And I choose education as my second choice. So does it mean that once I've chosen education, whether first, second, or third, or fourth, I have to subject myself to that exam?
Yes, please.
Even though I may not eventually do it, because if I get my first choice...
we choose a school to go with the program. Because if you want to apply to be admitted, let's say UCC, you select a program. So if that program is an education, then it means you have to pass the entrance exams.
Now we have people who, for example, apply to do BEd Science, BS, and they have maybe, they would have applied also to do BSc Biology or BSc something. So there are choices. Or is that not the case now?
Yeah, so if you are going for BSc, then you will not be under this, what we want to introduce. For BSc, you are not an education student. But if you are going for BEd program, then you have to pass the entrance exams.
I see. So now, this is just for public schools. What happens to private schools?
I'll come to that. And then my honorable MP also made an assertion that probably this one is tied to the IMF conditionality.
Now, if you look at what is being said, yes, something, and I've heard that too, actually.
Yes, but if you look at the mandate of the National Teaching Council, we are even supposed to ensure that all the private schools are filled with professional teachers. So we still need more teachers to be filled in the private schools. So there's no need for anybody to cut down the supply of teachers, since we don't have enough to fill even the private schools. So that assertion is not correct. Yes, it's not correct. Okay, then if you look at since 2018 to date, the number of candidates who have sat this particular exams are 145,050. So out of this 145,050, only 7,728 are left or have referrals to write. So if you look at the number, it means a lot of teachers have passed this exam, left with this few one that we are discussing. Yes.
I see.
Yes.
So my question about the private schools, because if they fail and government cannot employ them, the private schools will employ them. So it comes back to the same thing.
Yes, that's why NTC has already started something with the private schools. We are running short courses for teachers in the private schools to give them emergency certificate and then a temporary license to teach. Per the arts, we are supposed to do that. Yes,
every teacher.
Yeah, we are supposed to.
Whether private or public.
So they are supposed to be licensed before they can teach. So NTC has started that. So through that, we are making sure that they go in for this short courses that will bother on the pedagogy, how to manage classroom, how to manage child psychology and those things. So we started something
The private schools are many.
Yes.
And they are in various places. How long is it going to take you to get all of them through this program so they have some certification or license?
In fact, we're giving ourselves 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, so those
3 years from when? From now or from last year?
No, from this year. So those who are receive the emergency certificate, the certificate is renewable yearly. And after 3 years, you must have taken a step to upgrade yourself to get degree program or that to get yourself education program. So if you are a teacher in a private school and you don't take any step to upgrade yourself to get education from other university or the College of Education, it means you cannot no longer teach in the private schools.
Okay, so yes.
My curiosity, and I think this is something that we need to ponder. I know Dr. Christian Adapoku actually indicated that what we are dealing with is a national security issue as well. Because at the end of the day, what are we going to do with them? I mean, ostensibly,
the right again is September,
yes,
or November.
but eventually
November.
it is going to be phased out. Is that not the case? So what are we going to do with those of them?
Yes, but when we get to the subject based, can they not write a subject based exam?
Yes, two things will happen here. One, the national policy now is that those who are graduating from the College of Education, they are bachelors, they are degree holders.
Okay.
And therefore, moving forward, the entry qualification for a teacher to enter class will be the first degree. And therefore, if you are somebody who has a referral in the traditional paper, if by November you are not able to redeem yourself and you are a degree holder, you can still join the reform, start afresh.
But if you're a diplomate.
But if you're a diplomate, you have to upgrade yourself to a degree before you can join.
But that's a difficulty because from diplomate or a diploma to degree is a minimum of 2 years. And so what will be happening to them? Can't we extend this, maybe give it 1 more year so that we can get a lot of them to go through?
So even if you allow them to write, they cannot get employment because the minimum qualification to enter class with a degree.
So they have to pass at all costs this year?
Yes.
So they don't pass, what happens? They have to go back to school?
They have to upgrade themselves to a degree level and join the reform.
Wow. I mean, it's a good thing, but that is.
See, very, very quickly, this is the politics of it. In the run-up to the 2020 election, you would have noticed that our side, the NDC, we had said that in this current form, we would abolish the teacher licensure exam. And we would also take away the requirement that persons who go through training to become teachers ought to do 1 year national service. Our alternative proposal was to make the processes of certifying them as professionals part of the existing training, where a course will be introduced as a final year course, credit course, where every final year student in the College of Education.
So when they pass that, they have a license before they leave school.
So when you take that course and you pass, then you are licensed.
I see.
We have proposed that.
So hold it. Let me take a short break. I'll come back to you. Then you conclude on the alternative. Then I'll go to Prince. He also will take views from him as well. This is the big issue. We're coming to you live from 97.3 City FM, obviously on CCTV, and we're on CityTube. We're looking at the licensure examination. About 80% of the teachers failed the exam, but the NTC is telling us that these are students who have failed over the years, and because they are facing out this system, it appears the students are the lower percentile, and that's why a lot of them fail, because not in so many words, but they are not very good students or teachers, and they are facing it out. We have the subject-based exam starting from next year, and so these guys have the last opportunity in November to redeem themselves. And interestingly, from next year, the minimum entry requirement for a teacher to enter the classroom will be degree. And if these people have diploma, or they are diplomates, it means that they have to go back to school, upgrade themselves, get a degree before they can resit the exam and get an employment. That is quite interesting. We'll take a short break. We'll be back to continue with the discussion. Don't go away.
Joe Metal Ministries presents Praise Reloaded on Sunday the 25th of June 2023, featuring Dunsin Oyekan, Bethel Revival Choir, Edwin Datson and CC Chum. Time 5 p.m. Venue Oil Dome Accra. Rate 60 Ghana Cedis Standard, 100 Ghana Cedis Double and 150 Ghana Cedis VIP. Grab your tickets at Airport Shell, Bachuna Total, Osu Shell, Dansoman Shell, Tema Community Night Shell, J-Ray Shops, Nalem Shops, Hacho Shell. Online tickets www.jometalmusic.com. Ticket hotlines 0246 579 016 or 0501 192 797 and 0553 989 887 or dial star 725 star 5050 hash to purchase your tickets. Event ticketing powered by iPay. Sponsors Silicon House, DDP, Tang Palace, Total Family Health Organization, AIDS Protocol, Africa World Airlines, Green Line Jews, and Eagle Guard Security Solutions. Media partners. This event is powered by Reverb Studios.
You're welcome back to The Big Issue. My guest, Dr. Clement Apak, Deputy Ranking Member, Parliament Subcommittee on Education and Member of Parliament for Bosa South, Prince Ohiming Hima, President Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAC, and Nimako Owusu Dome, Director, Assessment and Examinations, National Teaching Council, the NTC. We are discussing the licensure examination, the fact that about 80% of the teachers or people, candidates who took that exam failed, just getting some answers and thinking about how we can better the system. Dr. Clement Apak, you were explaining to us what the alternative.
The alternative that we had proposed. So as I was saying earlier, our alternative was to subsume it within the context of the existing structures through which we train our teachers. Then it becomes a final year course designed for that purpose, which will be undertaking a credit course by every final year student. And then when you pass, you are certified and giving the license.
So it means when you fail, you don't graduate from school?
No, you don't. Okay. Or even if you have to retake it, you have to take it within the context. Like,
like a referral.
Like any other paper that you fail in final year, you have to take it. And we had proposed this because we know that we still experience the teacher deficit. He said that, and that is the case. As a rural MP, I can tell you that the last time I checked with my district director of education for basic, this is primary, KG to junior high school, we needed at least 200 teachers. For the recruitments that we've done, even up to date, we have not been able to get 40. And even when we get these few numbers, retaining them becomes a challenge. So we feel that we ought to look at processes that would allow us to have people with the requisite competences to fill this void, but at a cheaper cost to the state and to the prospective teachers themselves. And that is why we had introduced, we were proposing our alternative. So we would have taken away the 1 year national service. They won't have to do national service after college. They would have taken the examination to qualify them to be professional teachers in their final year while they were still in the colleges.
But why wouldn't they do the 1 year national service? Because that provides an avenue for the state to be able to push them into underserved areas.
Why should they do 1 year national service when their services are needed urgently in the classrooms?
So national service will be still rendering service to the nation, won't they?
But not in the classroom.
No, the College of Education, we have a deficit of teachers, so they obviously will go to the classroom because they are trained anyway. If sociology and other people go to classrooms, how much more the people who have been taught or have learned education, they will be sent to the classroom. The policy really should be that they should be sent to the classroom.
Well, as far as I know,
that's how it is.
Or is that the way it is?
Yes.
Well, then that is sufficient.
Sorted, yeah.
But that still does not defeat the original thesis that this should be done within the context
of the school,
of the school. And I think
as we are going along, if they fail, they don't get out of the school.
Exactly.
They remain in the school as students who have a referral
Yes.
to write.
And you see, if you listen to some of the, I don't want to say the victims, but for lack of a better word, the victims, some of them have suggested that they stay away from school has impacted their ability to pass the exam. Some claim that having stayed home long has affected their mental agility. So at least from their angle too, we must factor in some of the points that they have also raised.
That's true.
And for just yesterday, a sister network conducted a series of interviews with some students who are still undergoing training, and they preferred the proposal that we have put on the table. So in all of this conversation, we must look at it holistically and see if there are areas where we have to tweak so that we can get the best for the nation going forward.
Very well. Prince, so interesting points coming up, but is there a way that as teachers in these colleges, you try to infuse into your curriculum the examinable areas, numeracy, basic computing, literacy, essential skills for teaching, in preparation for these assessments or these exams, these licensure exams? Is there a way you do that?
In fact, like what Mr. Imakon friendly said, my boss, you realize that every institution that trains teachers now does so based on the curriculum framework that we have. And all those things are part of the competencies, they are part of the things that we do. So from the first year up to, the fourth year, in every course, deliberately, things are designed such that you will build competencies in some of these things. So if you are an average student, you've gone through the program, I do not see how this would be a problem. Like what you really say, some of the things will just require, ordinary, thinking. You do not need to be a mathematician. We all count our money when we go to the bank without using calculation.
But the money, nobody gets it wrong. Counting money, nobody gets it wrong.
You don't get it wrong. You don't say for that one. You are not a statistician. You are not a mathematician. You are able to calculate. You know your balance. You have a loan. You know, yeah. So these are the things you also need in the classroom. You'll be able to, so that you'll be able to, as it were, manage your classroom. You conduct exams for your students. You should be able to find out ways. You should be able to do simple graphs. Be able to do other things. Be able to see whether they are doing well or they are doing well.
Very well.
We talk of literacy.
Yes,
but perspective of what you are teaching.
Yes.
You need some amount of quality language because the people you are teaching, they learn by listening, the pronunciation and stuff like that. So you don't need to be, English students to be able to pass that.
Very well.
Perspective of the concept.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a question sent in by a texter, from Nungwa. So I'll share that between yourself and Nimako. So good morning. Since 1999, before you complete first year, you are supposed to write external exams, and if you don't pass, you are withdrawn from the college. What happened to that policy? Is there a policy you are aware of, and is there something you can speak to? Prince, yes.
I'm not sure what he's talking about, the external exam. We all know that we write external exams.
Okay.
Depending on the university you are affiliated, we all went through that. I went to training college myself between 1992 and 95 at Yoso training college. After for 28 years, and we all went through that. You do end of semester examination, and then cumulatively at the end of the day, they put everything together and then determine the class that you have and all of that. So I'm not sure. There isn't any specific exam that is set aside for students to write before you leave the college. It's a general exam. We all go to, you have internal and external. So you write with internal and external.
Okay, Nimako, is this something you are aware of?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Very well. So just quick questions. We are just running out of time. Do they pay for this exam, or this exam is taken care of by the state?
Oh, they pay for the exams.
So there are three examinable areas.
Yeah, 3 examinable areas. So the 3 papers cost 385. In fact, the approval from the parliament is 450.
Okay.
Yeah, so over the years, we charge less than that. But this year, because of the reform, we are going to charge the 450 for the 3 papers.
Okay, so can I pass one paper this year, another time I pass the other, and pass and put all 3 together?
Yes. So when you pass one, then it means you have 2 referrals. So you have to raise it and then write the 2.
So I can decide to write 111.
Yes, you can decide to write 111. Then when the 3rd year, or when you write all the 3, and you pass, they'll get your answers.
I see. So in concluding, what would be your parting words?
I would say that.
Or maybe if you have a few things to respond to from what the others have said.
Not much, not much. But we want to look at the way forward, and I will look at it from about 4 angles: from the government side, from the training institutions and the NTC, from the teacher and the parents. Now you know that the foundation of every structure is very, very important. No matter the superstructure, if the foundation is weak, the whole structure will fall down. So we need to look at the basic education seriously. There are certain things that
so you should be concerned about the recent expose by the civil society organization.
You should start from the basic and make sure that the foundation is very, very strong at the basic level. Then we also look at the training institutions. We need to look at how the students are assessed again, and then, as Mr. Obin said, the introduction of entrance exams will also help. Now, every exam, we give the chief examiner report to the training institutions. They should look at the weaknesses of the candidate and then use that one to, use that one to improve the teaching delivery at the training institutions.
Very well.
Then when it comes to the teachers, they should also be up their games.
They should be serious.
Yes, they should have their games. And yes, you see, as I said, when they go to the exams room, they should do independent work because the options are different.
Yeah, okay.
So if you don't do independent work, definitely you get it wrong.
Very well.
Yes. So the parents, for them, they should take keen interest in the education of their children. That's all. Thank you.
I give you 30 seconds. The way forward, or parting words.
Yes, seconds. I think revolution. We need to, walk the talk. It's about time. We need to start the entrance exams at the college level so that we can be sure of the entry behavior of the students we are admitting. And it will help in a very long way to scale this monster of protocol, so that we will be sure that those who are coming, every Ghanaian deserves to be there once you have what it takes, once you have passed the entrance exam and wouldn't have to, spend money on people who cannot pass after they have gone through the system as identified later.
Okay. So, Honorable, last words, 30 seconds.
Well, I still maintain that there ought to be a thorough look at this matter to put all the doubts to rest. And I'm glad that my colleague from NTC has mentioned the importance of foundation. You know, that has been one of my biggest challenges as far as the current government is concerned. The challenges bedeviling public basic education are not matters that we should be toying with as a nation. And he has re-echoed that point. You cannot purport to be building ultra-modern junior high schools, ultra-modern senior high schools, and have the best tertiary if your foundation is weak. So I think within that context,
you agree on that point.
I agree with you.
All right. Okay. All right. So this is how we concluded today's edition of the program. Thanks so much for doing the viewing and the listening. My name is Selom Adunu. My guests for this segment have been Dr. Clement Apak, MP, Bosa South, the Ranking Member Education Committee of Parliament, Prince Obin Hima, President, Colleges of Education Teachers Association of Ghana, CTAG, and Nimako Owusu-Dome, Director, Assessment and Examination, National Teaching Council. He is in charge of the exam and all the things that people are going through. All right. Thank you so much for doing the listening. Catch you again next week.
You know, looking in the mirror this dawn before coming to work, I couldn't help but exclaim, damn, fab, you looking fab. No, but I heard a still voice. It spoke to me. It said, precious one, change your time. And I said, Joe, how? And this tire is a brand new. Yeah, it has Dinkra motifs inside from Janini Meng to food and food and chefunefu are confinantes. It's called Opulence tires. I am rocking it today by all means. By all means. No, so I disobeyed the voice that called me precious one. No, it was just as I entered the studio that when I saw my